Accountable Leadership for an Affordable Government. My name is Ken Fracasso, and I'm joined tonight by Karen Beadle, Marcia Sterling, and Glenn Albanesius. We are your Republican candidates for the Board of Selectmen. This evening we are focused on setting the record straight. There are a lot of lies that are being told in Winston lately, and you need the truths, and we need to have these lies stopped. We do not normally respond to nonsense claims, but a few days ago, some made by Candy Perez and Mike Renzullo were outright lies. It's important for you to hear the truth. Candy and Mike claimed that my company, Fracasso Industries, had received some sweetheart no-bid contract from the town, and that I personally benefited to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The town had two projects, and in both cases, I bid on both projects. They involved hauling sand from the State Highway Garage to the Winsted Town Garage. To be clear, what happens in the bid process? Bidders first submit a price. Mark Douglas, the town purchasing manager, opens the envelopes at a designated hour and makes public each bidder's price. Unless there are compelling reasons otherwise, the low bidders are usually awarded the project. I would like to right now show you some documents that are these bid results to confirm these facts. As you can see, Fracasso Industries was the lowest bidder on both the projects. This first bid document was the first round of bids, and as you can see, I was half the price of the other bidder. Later on, there was a second round of bids that came out to haul some more sand, and there were, I believe, 5 or 6 bidders. Once again, I was the low bidder. So I was paid to transport the sand, as I said earlier, from the state garage to the town garage, and I was clearly much cheaper than anyone else. The total value of these contracts was less than $8,000, far from the tens of thousands of dollars that Mr. Renzullo claimed that I profited from. As you can see, I really can't explain why they would say this. All this was done at a selectmen's meeting. Our town public work director, Jim Rotundo, came and made a presentation. He informed us that he was made aware that this sand was available from the state because they have gone to a liquid form of salt. Therefore, they made this available to towns to purchase. He brought the proposal. They paid, I can't remember exactly, I think it was like $1 or $1.50 a yard for the sand. It was very cheap. And he wanted to have someone truck it to the garage because, you know, the small town trucks that they have, it just wouldn't be feasible. So I believe it was Selectman Smith that said that, you know, we should put this out to bid. I recused myself. I abstained. I did not vote. And when the bid documents came out, I submitted a bid, and I was a low bidder. So.
And I applaud you if you're able to turn $8,000 of revenue into tens of thousands of dollars of profit. If that in fact is the case, then we need to talk.
Well, I wish I could, but it doesn't work like the chia pets, unfortunately. Just water it and it'll grow. But I guess that wasn't the only issue that they talked about. So I was in good company that night.
Yeah, I guess I got tarred and feathered a little bit too, and I'll just, I don't have any documents to show, but I'll just explain that I do work for WB Mason. I signed paperwork when I became a selectman, filed that with Sheila as a vendor to the town. I had been a vendor to the town for many years prior to my becoming selectman. I do sell to the town and the Board of Education. Any contract that the Board of Ed or the town uses through WB Mason is bid on corporately, and I am just a representative. The money doesn't go in my pocket. It gets mailed to Brockton, Mass. And I was honestly a little taken back that an issue like that would have been raised, but this is political season, and I think that their true colors are showing.
But just to be clear, you don't sit down with Tom Dennehy and negotiate the price of paper and crayons?
I don't, no, because again, you know, that contract is negotiated by my corporate office, and
it's a statewide contract.
It's a statewide contract,
right? I thought.
It's through CRAC, and that's you know, a statewide organization, and again, I'm surprised, but
apparently they find you to be a very impactful individual. Then
I guess so. I mean, it's
kind of bittersweet.
Sad but true. I mean, I do think I save, and every time I get a call from the schools or the town, wherever I can, I do try to save the town money, and I'm sure Sandra Lemlin will vouch for that, and anybody that I dealt with. But again, I just want to put that issue behind us and kind of sad that Candy Mike brought that up.
Well, it's the same with me. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
when we did that, it was 1,900 yards of sand, and we were able to accomplish that in one day. I put 4 trucks on the job, and we knocked it off in one day. The town had a loader, excuse me, the town had a load on the sand pile, but they came infrequently just to push off. Most of the time, we were able to dump it right over the edge, so there wasn't a need for a machine and a man to be there all day long. I think they came throughout the day. I think he came over 3 or 4 times to push some of the residue. But, you know, as far as, you know, I made no money. I mean, I did this, you know, I tried to save the town money. As you can
It's
see,
pretty
the
evident,
prices
yeah.
of revenue, you know, where the ballpark, you know,
Well,
figure is.
You're a half to a third the price of all the other
Right.
bidders.
Right.
And the point of this was to do something, you know, good for the town and do it in an efficient manner, not make money from the town. And I'm disappointed, quite frankly, that the Democrats are stooping to this level of lies and character assassinations, because it's a waste of everyone's time and energy, and it's really just the wrong emphasis to have. I mean, I think
Yes.
we want to talk about the issues.
Right.
And to the extent we talk about people, we talk about what they've said or what their actions are. We are not focused on who they are or what they do not in their capacity as a selectman.
That's right. And I mean, here, you know, this is followed through the letter of the law. We have a bid process. You know, there was nothing underhanded. And as selectmen, they should know. They attended these meetings, you know, before you shoot your mouth off and accuse people of something. And I mean, Glenn, it's just admirable, you know, you have a sales job, you know, you've been here a long time, you decided to run, give back to the community, and you're being assassinated as well.
Right, and I think that's the part that bothered me the most, was the fact that anybody that knows me knows that I'm not out to make any kind of sweetheart deal with anybody. My life is complicated enough to, you know, not travel down that path. So, and again, I you know, surprised, I guess, but not shocked that they brought it up. So I think it bears tonight to put it behind us and just offer the people who watch these shows an explanation that what they said was untrue.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I think perhaps the reason that they feel that it's appropriate to bring this stuff up is because, quite frankly, they have something right now to hide. Let's take a look at the emails that were made available courtesy of the Winstead Journal's FOIA request. And I want to thank them for helping us expose the truth here. Because the emails paint a picture of the Winstead Board of Education as desperate to save their own reputations and cover up their problems. And quite frankly, it's something the town really needs to know, and something that we can't afford and that has to stop. So I'm going to begin, or let's begin with, the emails from what we learned about Sue Hofnagel, who is now the chair of the Board of Ed. It turns out that she knew on Tuesday the 26th of July that there were problems with the audit, and she was most concerned about her own reputation because she was going to a Democratic Town Committee meeting, and she wanted to have answers to cover herself as opposed to answers, I guess, for the town. She confirmed then in an email on Wednesday, July 27th, after speaking with then Superintendent Salerno, that there were real problems, and this is the most disconcerting thing, that there were possible misapplication of federal funds resulting in, quote, expenses hitting the fund balance. And then, shockingly, in a special Board of Selectmen meeting on Thursday the 28th, so literally the next night, she sat in front of all of you and denied any knowledge of any problems and said it was the first that she was aware of if there being any, that the audit was untimely, that they hadn't provided the correct information.
Right.
And she certainly didn't tell you that there was a possible misapplication of ARA funds.
No, they actually genuinely looked like they were shocked. Mm-hmm. No, we were shocked that they showed up, first of all.
Pleasantly shocked.
Pleasantly shocked.
Right.
We were thrilled that they finally came to a meeting, because that's been an impossibility. And then they looked genuine. Didn't they look genuine? I thought they looked genuinely shocked.
And then the following day was one of the meetings in Hartford with
Yes.
Senator Rohrabaugh. And again, pretty much the same team, same response. This is new for us. We'll get right on it. Now, bear in mind, this is the end of July. This is the last week of July. So let's look at those first emails that belay this. So what you see here is an email from Sue Hofnagel to Paul Pettit, the former finance director, and Kathy O'Brien, who was then the chair, on July 26th, saying, we will have the Democratic caucus this evening, and I am sure we will get hammered on the audit question. I'd like to be able to offer some explanations. Any thought? And then the following day, again, from Sue Hofnagel to Doc Dutton and Chris Royer on July 27th, just spoke to Blaze. Not good. Looks like there is still a chance that we will have ARRA funds not being applied, with the result that the expenses will hit the fund balance. No idea the magnitude, but blithely, oh, it won't bankrupt the town. I found the conversation very disturbing. And then the conclusion, maybe it's not a good idea to meet if we don't have any answers, but we sure should find out the answers since there seems to be a real problem. Again, acknowledgement of a real problem in an email to fellow Board of Ed members. All three of them were in that meeting,
Yes.
and not one of them.
But what else is, I mean, it's striking in and of itself, but I also noticed that there's no email correspondence to Carol Palumba, who was also at that meeting. She attended many, if not all, of those meetings at the State Board of Education.
Well, the other thing that becomes clear if you read through the whole body of emails, which I think you guys have had a chance to look at as well, is that it's a very small little group, but they're controlling the Board of Education. It's pretty much Sue, Doc, and Chris emailing each other. Mimi comes into the mix, sort of in August when she becomes part of the team.
Right.
And there are some interesting emails there. They proactively comment about leaving Carol out of the loop, that they give her the, quote, report light, because you never know who's listening at her kitchen table. So they proactively keep a small group, and to the extent they refer to Joe Hanachek and Jim DeVita, they talk about them being solid votes. When they're going through the process to oust Kathy, they count votes literally online. And they also violate executive session rules. They discuss the results of executive session amongst themselves online. I mean, there's really a treasure trove of stuff. There's so much stuff we couldn't cover it in one program, and I thought it was important, or we thought it was important this evening, to focus on the key information, which is, yes, we have a real problem with the audit, and I guess now we shouldn't be surprised why it's so late, because something is being covered up. We
Right.
still don't know what it is, but something is being covered up. So we go on from that to the fact that Candy actually is part of this discussion. She's actually in the loop. Sue Hofnagel kept her in the loop, including specific information that there were problems with the audit. Problems that could hit the fund balance, the same language she used with Doc Dutton and Chris Royer. Knowing this, Candy was willing to let the BOE's falsehoods in front of you all stand. She did not correct them in public. The majority of the BOS, the auditors, and the public were unaware of, as Sue called it, the real problems. And we're still unaware
Yes,
of the
we are.
real problems. She did not insist that the Board of Education, which is responsible for 2/3 of our tax dollars, that they tell the truth. So let's look at the emails again. From Sue Hofnagel to Mimi Vallejo on August 4th. Was talking to Candy tonight. That was a downer. First of all, if there is an audit problem, all of her support, open paren, okay, I never noticed much, close paren, ends, and all hell breaks loose. I mean, interesting. One, obviously talked to her about the audit problem. Two, there's not much support among each other in that team.
Right.
And then from Sue Hofnagel to Kathy O'Brien on August 6th, Candy has made the point that should the BOE hit the fund balance, even the Democrats on the BOS will turn against the Board of Ed. So they know that this is a problem. And again, another email later on talks about it being a public relations nightmare.
Well, this is transparency at its best, I guess. Wasn't that their moniker last year? And
Yeah.
this year, what, building community? This doesn't seem like a way to build community to me.
Trust
Unless it's the Jonestown horror that they're building here, I don't know.
Well, it is. It comes down to if you're not in their loop, meaning you don't agree with them 100%,
You're out.
you're out. I mean, I think Lisa knows the effects of being voted off that island.
Right,
Yeah.
there's an
So-
obvious example right there.
And since we were never on the island, I guess we don't know.
Lucky for us.
Yeah, lucky for us is right.
Now, it wasn't just Candy that was in the loop, just to be clear. Sue Hofnagel is actively briefing George and Mike. There's a follow-up email on August 8th. And it says, from Sue Hofnagel to Doc Dutton, I have called the selectmen. Okay, I sent emails to George and Candy and Mike because we're already on speaking terms with them. Now, we don't know what those emails say because those were missing from the correspondence. But what we do know is that Sue Hofnagel was not briefing you all
Right.
or Lisa, presumably because she thought you might not tolerate lying to everybody and covering this up.
Right.
I would have to give her credit there.
Yeah, that was a good call.
So Sue Hofnagel is lying, Candy, George, and Mike are in the loop and not exposing the truth. And to add insult to injury, and this is the one I think I find the most egregious, Candy is actively working with the Winstead Board of Education to have the state budget, to have the town's budget overturned. She wants to take money out of our pockets, take our road money, and hand it over to the school district to flush down the empty school buildings' toilets and, pay to the raises to the administrators that they proposed literally a week or so ago.
Right.
So in this email dated, I believe it's it's July 31st. So this is immediately before that first email, that meeting where they profess no knowledge of anything going on, or right after. Sue to Mark Samaruga, the Board of Ed attorney. Mark, I was talking to our mayor this evening, and she was adamant. Someone needed to call Brian, that's Brian Mahoney, the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer of the State Department of Ed, and make sure the state does not back down. So Candy, I guess, has her educator hat on here and thinking that it's more important to get more money from the town than to get the audit done and to find out what the problems are.
Right, exactly. And just keep dumping money in and have absolutely no answers. Oh, that's a wonderful plan.
The answer part certainly isn't getting any clearer.
No, it isn't.
However, their actions are. I mean, they just continue to go from bad to worse. And there's more players all the time. It's like a virus. So.
Well, I think it's troubling that the mayor, the town approved the budget, and I think, Glenn, you've said this repeatedly. It wasn't the 4 or 5 selectmen, it was the town approved the budget. And as mayor, I think Dale has said this as town manager, as mayor, you have to let go of the D after your name and work in the best interest of the town. And
what he's saying is that once a vote is done, whether it went in your favor or not, you need to move on.
Right.
There's other things for the town to do. This is this is evil. This is actually evil. I don't even know what to call it. I mean, it's evil.
Well,
They're essentially having meetings and making decisions online. They don't even need to actually meet. Well, they do talk about that too, because I managed to break down and read the Winstead Journal, and there were conversations about how they don't want to meet in public.
Right.
Your public elected officials, that's where your meetings are. They're in front of the people that you represent. This is so convoluted and wrong. They really should just resign.
Yes, I was going to say it's sadly not very convoluted because
It's horrible. It's horrible.
It's really. This explains, I think, why Vanessa's had such a problem.
Sure.
Even starting the audit, because I think she continues to get boxes of information, because I think, like these emails, the right information is perhaps buried in that box or perhaps not, but if we give her a big enough box, maybe she'll go away. It reminds me of when I was working, of the old story of someone filling out their expense report knowing that you're not supposed to buy personal items, and because they were in Chicago, they bought a pair of gloves, and when they submitted their expense report, of course, it was rejected. The gloves were rejected. So the person submitted a new expense report the next time around and just put a clip on and put a sticky note that said, "Find the gloves." So, it's like if you take enough time, you can hide anything.
Right.
And but this is public money.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
federal money, and it's it's the local tax dollars. And it's
And these people
wrong.
represent the taxpayers of this town. I don't know who they're representing right now. I guess that's my point, because they're playing games with our money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're not. I don't know who they're representing, because they don't have. Obviously, whatever meeting you see is a facade, because the real meeting happens behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're seeing, it's a shell game. It's a game. You're seeing like the fake meeting.
The Kabuki meeting.
The Kabuki meeting, I like that.
Well, and the thing is that, again, something that really I think is upsetting is they always talk about, well, we're doing this for the kids. Well, freezing the town from doing anything, running through all the town's money, jacking up the taxes on the parents, not telling anybody where anything's going,
Right.
and having terrible test results, that's not in anyone's interest. That's not in the kids' interest.
Well,
That's not in the town's
Let's
interest.
throw this one in too, because we had an issue. There was a meeting last night, we're all aware, between the school building committee. It was on Channel 4, the news. I caught it this morning. My husband was there, so obviously I knew. And there's a mold issue. There's a mold issue, and there's a problem with the gym floor at Hinsdale School from 11 weeks ago, about 11 weeks ago from Irene.
Irene, right.
And nothing has been done. Nothing. And yet, we have a handful of kids, and there may be more that just haven't come forward, that really have serious health issues as a result, and they've done nothing. They brought no one in, finally brought somebody in only a few weeks ago. You don't let water, especially water, all of us, any of us that have property, you don't let it sit there and fester for 11 weeks and think you care about the kids. You don't.
Well, this comes
It's
back.
obvious.
This comes back to what we said on the very first show. You know, there is a total lack of leadership in various agencies, and there's a huge one with the Board of Education. I mean, if this was any of our homes,
That's
I'm
right.
sure if it was Tom Dennehy's home or Sue Hofnagel's home that had water damage, the first thing the following morning they've been on the phone with their insurance and had a claims adjuster out there. You don't wait 11 weeks, and I think they only waited, the only reason it got put off this long was because, you know, a parent complained or several parents complained.
Several parents
You know,
complained.
this is an insurance claim, and now they're trying
Right.
to twist this thing around once again that this is a capital expense. You know, it's not a capital expense. This is a maintenance problem. This is an insurance problem. That's how this should have been handled.
That's right.
And it should have been handled 11 weeks ago. If school had to be delayed 1 or 2 days, possibly, maybe not. But that would have been the time to do it. Not let it fester for 11 or 12 weeks. Let this stuff grow.
Well, in
And
addition
now
to
what are they
that,
gonna do?
yeah, in addition to that, they discovered that there was a problem with the air intake.
Right.
You know, that hasn't worked in 12
fan.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it hasn't worked like a decade.
Right. Leadership,
it's-
leadership. You know, there's nobody minding the store. You know,
Yeah.
we have maintenance personnel that are supposed to do these
That's
things.
right.
Maybe they don't know what their job description is. Maybe that's where we have to start, is from square one. You know, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of that, you know, and you answer to me, or, you know, you answer to him. Somebody needs to be responsible, but we just do not have that system in place.
Well, let me just say this. I don't care if your budget is 18,618,000. If you have mold and kids are getting sick, you spend that money.
Right.
You spend the money.
Well, they have a $300,000 line
That's right.
item for maintenance.
Maintenance.
And they
That's
have for
right.
years, and we all know, we have no idea what that money's gone for. And more importantly, this is, as you rightly pointed out, this is an insurance claim. And
It's a deductible.
the only reason it's not an insurance claim is because perhaps they've taken so long that they may have voided the insurance claim. And that would be a problem.
Yeah, so far, thankfully, from what I understand, that has not happened. But from what I heard about last night is it was the kids. Then it was the money. It was the money. And the school building committee had to aptly point out to them, listen, this is an insurance claim. You have to file for, and FEMA is going to be giving 75% back once you file your paperwork of that deductible, which their portion, I understand, is $25,000. So what you're telling me that you didn't want to spend the $25,000, start getting the people there to work, and it was okay to get kids sick.
It's a
Because
$25,000 to repair it, or that's the
It's
that's
the
entire-
deductible.
That's the deductible. How much is? Do you have any sense for the entire repair cost?
I have no idea.
But still, the 70. What you're saying, I think, is the 7 of the 25. 20 of it gets reimbursed by FEMA.
that is correct.
So you
As long as
net-
they file their paperwork.
which we all know they have trouble with
Yes.
in terms of any kind of construction projects. But
Right.
having said that, it's a net $5,000 problem for the Board of Ed. $5,000 cost, and they can't manage to get together and make it happen.
So don't tell me it's about the kids,
Right.
because it's not.
It's not at all. Not even close. Not
Well,
even close.
does this seem like
I'm angry about this.
Is
I
this
really
similar
am.
to the oil tank in terms of the dragging their feet and not getting it done
Yeah, but kids weren't getting
in
sick.
a timely manner.
Kids weren't getting sick on that. Yeah, that was, talk about it, the oil tank. Oh my God. The oil tank, that was going to take forever.
But
It's yours, it's mine, it's yours,
But
it's
it's a
mine.
problem because
Gosh.
a lot of the Board of Ed members are still the same, and they didn't learn anything from that. And now, Jim DeVita wants to bring that great skill set to the Board of Selectmen, and I don't think the town can afford that.
No.
Well, I think in
Please
the letter
don't.
that Tom Dennehy sent home with all the kids today,
Yeah, can we talk about that?
there was a note in there that, perhaps if the Board of Selectmen, the mix changes, that this, I think verbatim, it all goes away. So this election
This is
important.
politics at its worst.
It is.
Honest to God.
But let's be clear. What the message is if you turn the Board of Selectmen over to the Democrats, they will open season hand us as much money as we want.
And all this discussion is going to go away.
We don't have
Right.
to be accountable to anybody. So that's a good thing. But by the way, if you don't hand the reins over to people that we like, that will give us all the money we want, we're going to punish you because we're going to fire classroom teachers
Yes.
and we're going to cut back services in education instead of closing an empty building and not giving pay increases to all the administrators.
Right.
So they clearly, I think it couldn't have been, this was, I think, a poor thing for the superintendent to do in terms
It's
of.
all political. Correct me if
politics.
I'm wrong, but is this Mr. Dennehy's first stint as a superintendent?
Yes, it is.
Well, maybe that explains something. I mean, Glenn, you hit on. I happen to have a copy of the letter right here. They talk about the MBR. Excuse me. There are few foreseeable outcomes to this ongoing issue. Number one, the majority of the Board of Selectmen changes. The new members vote to fund the school district. So what he's saying there, if the Republicans get voted out and the Democrats get voted in,
Yep.
they'll fund the MBR at the level, and the entire issue disappears. So basically, he sends this letter home to the parents, tell them how to vote.
And I
I
thought
think
spaghetti
it's-
suppers were
right.
bad.
Right, yeah, right.
But meanwhile,
Honestly,
let's
wow.
not lose sight of how we started this.
Mm-hmm.
They've
There's
certainly evolved.
we have spending problems. We have misspending problems.
Oh, I know.
We have no audit. You would just be handing more money over to people that can't tell you what they did with the last $43 million that they had. Let's be clear.
Mm-hmm.
$22.6 million in 9-10 and $21.5 million in 10-11.
Mm-hmm.
We have no good numbers for them for the last 2 years.
We're aware of that, and we're trying to make everyone out there
That's right.
in TV land aware of that. And I think that, for the most part, we've had this discussion many times. There's going to be a certain core of people that vote for the Democrats. There's going to be a certain core of people that vote for Republicans. We're trying to get the word out to everyone else that, if this is the way you want it to go, your tax dollars just going down the drain,
Yeah.
not having any accountability, then vote for the Democrats. If you want some real accountability, you need to vote for the Republicans, because we will get to the bottom of this. We've done the lion's share of this work already, and we're almost there. I think that if they let us finish our job, we'll all be better for it.
Well, the heat obviously is on for a letter to go out like this, these emails. How many stacks were there, Marcia?
There were over 600 pages. And, again, some of the emails that another one of the emails I want to touch on that really relates to all of you that I thought was horribly inappropriate, talks about, as we've said before, the rejection of the bus parking.
Right.
Candidly, it was just wrong. And in this day and age, given all the things that have transpired in the last year or so, this was just wrong. It was an email from Sue Hofnagel again to Doc Dutton when he had reported back to her about the outcome of the vote on the bus parking. Again, not 125 grand, lots of in-kind services, lots of exposure,
Right.
lots of risk. I think you guys rightly said, not enough time, hairy proposal, no thank you. Sue's response to Doc was that you all should be shot.
Yeah, I got right here. They should be shot. Maybe it won't be possible to strike a deal after all. Ken and Karen are so far gone. And they have the gall to say that I hit the table one night with my fist. And that made me, laugh, because there was no TV. That was in the Blue Room one night.
Right.
There was no TV, but they grab onto something and they just run with it.
Yep.
And they just keep pounding it and pounding it and pounding. There isn't one show, and I haven't seen them because I have Dish TV, I believe. So I don't have cable access.
Yeah.
But there has not been one show that, I'm not referred to as the fist banger or the angry man or, but at least I haven't said I want to shoot somebody.
I was a little, this is coming from the chairman of the Board of Education.
Yeah, yeah, she was
Okay.
the chairman at the time.
Here we have companies I see on TV that are doing anti-bullying and everything. And,
Yeah.
and here, certainly not leading by example.
Right.
Okay. We can disagree. We're going to disagree. But this is inappropriate. I mean, just if you're writing, I don't care if it's on your personal email and you're writing about something that you're doing politically, you should at least have the brains enough to know that this is all FOIable. The fact that you don't even have the common sense to think that these are not public information is disturbing on so many levels. And I just think that this is they really should just all resign because
should.
this is just not, I don't think, where the town needs to go.
Well, what I think is what we really need people to hear, and what is terribly ironic, is another theme from the Democrats is the Republicans are mean, hateful people,
No.
and
Sick of it. I'm
And
sick of it.
I think their actions show, who are the sharp-elbowed folks, and I think you're all, and I am certainly, proud of my record and happy to talk about any aspect of my record and my life up to now.
Right.
And if I were Sue Hofnagel, I would not be proud of any of this.
And so far,
and certainly
Glenn,
wanna-
where are we going? Where have we gone?
I don't know.
I don't know. I actually, we talked a little bit before the show, and sometimes when we meet, which is very infrequently, and I said, sometimes I get sick of even hearing myself because we say the same things over and over again, because the truth is the truth.
Right.
There's no spin on it. This is not the spin zone.
Right.
And it's just, we keep having to reiterate the truth. And then we get proof that we're not crazy, because you kind of suspect this is happening. And then you find
I
out
don't know
it
what's
is.
worse. Now that we've seen this, or I'm sure now the emails have stopped altogether. I'm sure it's probably texting or phone calls or face-to-face meetings.
Well, at least
So-
it's smarter.
Well,
Well, I don't know.
but they're still doing the same thing.
I don't know.
They're
the
doing
idea,
the same
idea
thing,
of going
and-
underground is not necessarily.
And
Yeah.
hence why I feel as strongly as I do that, maybe they're not fitted for public service. Because this is public service. There's nothing really, what would you call it, glamorous about this. It is public service.
Well, they can keep building their community all they want like this. It's just going to crumble right in front of their eyes.
Well, I think it's important to summarize where we are. I mean, Candy and the Democrats don't care what the town approved for a budget.
Right.
It's their way or the highway, and they're actively working actually to overturn that budget. They want the State Department of Ed, who, based on
that was
those
very
emails
disturbing.
and others, it's clear that I think they'll be reasonable. If we win, they'll be reasonable. We'll be able to get something done. That Candy sued George Mike and Jim DeVita, because he's on the Finance Committee of the Board of Ed. They're covering something up.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's large or small.
it doesn't make any difference, though. I don't care if it's $5 or $5 million. The fact that they've lied and just made this audit process
Yeah.
as difficult as it is,
Impossible, yeah.
I mean, they should all be removed for that reason
No,
alone.
they've held us in a stranglehold.
But I'm
If
sure-
something
but I'm
came
sure
up,
they've
we
overspent
could
so
do
much.
nothing.
But look, it's classic. It's sort of classic bad behavior in that I imagine we'll find out. Who knows what it'll turn out being. But some of us will end up saying, "Why did you lie about that?"
Yeah.
It's going to be classic
Yeah, I
Martha
suspect
Stewart
that.
behavior.
Yeah.
Go to the federal prison for something that you should have just admitted.
Right.
So I think what you need to hear from us is that we commit to not be deceitful, not hold secrets,
Right.
not exchange information behind people's backs, not go out of our way not to tell people stuff afraid it will be hammered. We trust you with the truth. And we want to focus on growing the town.
And the point of all of this, I'm sitting here kind of quietly, thinking that we've got to get past this somehow, some way.
Yes.
The fact that we've taken it upon ourselves to shed some light on it is important because, we can't continue to operate under the status quo. It's gone on for too long. I think what's going on now has been a history over there for a while. And the reality is it needs to change. It needs to change now. And if we stop doing what we're doing, I'm fearful that it's going to get swept under the rug.
Well, maybe we can hope that we've hit bottom and it's going to be going up from here.
Yes.
know?
Well, there's no place else to go but up. But I
Thank
think
God
this
for
has been a
that.
mission that's about as noble as you can get. It's not an easy thing for any of us to have to deal with. We do, as Marcia said, we take a lot of heat for the positions that we've taken, but we have to do it. There's no way around it. And I think that, you know,
You do. You have to see it through.
right.
Well, this is the right thing to do for the town. And I'm going to interject here. We've been talking.
just
and
gonna say one more thing,
No,
Marcia, too.
but I want you to
Okay.
speak, but I just want to tell people at home that we will be taking phone calls shortly.
Yeah.
So, because I think some people might be anxious to call in.
Okay,
Go ahead.
and it does impact the town, as we've said again, and we've made a point of kind of saying the same things over and over. You know, people that aren't involved in this day to day, you know, it's probably lost on a lot of people, goes over their head, and that's okay. But the audit and the fiscal part of the equation really does impact the town. What we can do, what we can't do, if we can't borrow money, even if there's an emergency, our hands are, you know, are tied. And we need the support of the Board of Ed to kind of come to the table, negotiate this out, however it happens, and move forward.
Yeah.
Get it fixed.
Well, let me tell you, though, their idea of a negotiation, Sue's very clear. You give her the 1.3
Yeah,
and,
no,
and you apologize.
Right.
Apologize
That's
for
not
what?
happening.
I don't know.
I don't
Yeah,
either.
I'm not sure either. I'm telling you, there's an alter reality going on here that I'm definitely, I'm far gone from that. I like the reality that is real, with the real numbers that I'd like to see someday.
No, but Glenn, you're absolutely right. We can't do anything else until this is
You're right.
resolved.
Right.
Absolutely
And
right.
we went door to door, and we had a classic example of someone that, you know, we spoke the facts, and it didn't matter. He just wanted the money.
Right.
You know, and that was kind of bizarre for an intelligent person that, you know, you lay the facts out, and it really didn't matter what was going on. Just that the kids need more money.
But if you recall, it's like, you know, he had no reason why.
Well, exactly.
Just because.
Right.
Right.
Just
Yeah,
because.
just
And
because.
that's,
Well,
quite frankly, is scary.
Well, the other thing that's really disconcerting about the communication today and all the communication up to now is, remember, if you closed a building, the MBR would be 18.6. There was over 600,000 of savings from the Gilbert consolidation, and the building costs between $500,000 and $700,000 to operate. So they're wasting $500,000 to $700,000 on a building, but what do they do with that other $600,000? That's the scary thing. What are you doing sending home a letter saying you're going to lay off teachers? What did you do with all that other money?
Well, some of that money's going to go for raises.
So it
Yeah,
right?
Right.
yes,
Am I
yeah.
saying that
no,
wrong?
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, you're
absolutely.
right.
They voted unanimously to give raises to the administrators.
Wait, but let's be clear. Unanimous did not include Carol and,
Yeah.
and Paul. They were not there. It was a Saturday morning meeting. I think the two parties who all along have said there's a problem were not at that meeting. But yes, the people that were there, all the rest of the Board of Ed, ex the two of them, voted to give those people raises.
So this alter reality that you mentioned, you know, it does get bizarre at times.
Saturday at 8 a.m., someplace, you know, where you can't find them.
in some
Right.
some dark corner of
Right.
Winstead.
Yeah, well, we'll post it last minute. We won't tell you the room. We'll tell you the wrong room, and then we'll be in a different room. I mean, what is this nonsense? If you don't want to be accountable to the public,
Then don't run for it.
simply go home. We like you as a community member and continue with your life, but you're not suitable for public office. It's just as simple as that. Because this is dangerous nonsense. Dangerous.
Well, it's killing the town. We've talked about
is.
this before. With a broken education system and no financial statements, the town is truly broken.
Broken
So-
buildings, broken education, broken budgets. It's got to improve, Glenn. I want to see the bright side. We've lived through
Yeah.
most of the dark side. I'd like to see the bright side.
It can't. It's fixable.
It is.
It is. It is.
And you know, had some of these changes that we've talked about happen, we would have been 3-4 months into it already.
Right.
Well, here's the
Working
stunning
towards
thing
the-
for me. Sue Hufnagel is an attorney. She's a smart woman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why she didn't come to you that Thursday night and say, you know what? I've started to look into things this week. You're absolutely right. We have a problem. I have no idea how big it is. I'm not sure where we're going to go with this. You know, the heads should roll. I'm not sure whose. But we should do something about this, and we need to sit down at the same table
Right.
and get to the bottom of this. And maybe it's a $5 problem, or maybe it's a $500,000 problem. Who knows? But they would establish so much credibility.
Right.
Instead, they sit on their hands. They trade these emails about, oh my gosh, let's not tell anybody anything. They give
Well,
Vanessa boxes of documents.
They dug their heels in and said we all should be shot. There's a cure for
And
you.
then they go underground.
And, yeah, and they send emails to each other saying the mayor needs to call the State Board of Ed to tell them to put the wood to us.
It's been adversarial, and it was adversarial 2 years ago
Mm-hmm.
when we had a FOI information, when we suspected there was a problem. I mean, this didn't just crop up. People need to understand that. We were first we asked, we even said please,
Mm-hmm.
you know. We were very humble, and then we had to FOI them, and that was embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know, and we need to apologize to them. You know, I really think it's the other way around, and I'm sorry they didn't see that.
We have made overtures to them. Ken, you and Lisa met with Dr. Danahy,
Yeah.
had a civil conversation, and I think there was some common ground. I mean, Lisa walked away
Right.
saying that, and that was the end of it. No response after that. And
To this day, there's been no
No,
response.
those letters are
Right.
what you've gotten.
And I know I've had meetings with some of the board members and good conversations. Just, you know, they never managed to go anywhere, and I think that's sad. It really is.
It almost makes you think that the way that they respond to us, or lack thereof, that they believe they're autonomous, and they're not.
Right.
They're not separate. They're not their own little island. They're not their own country within the town of Winstead.
They're not Monaco.
They're not Monaco. They're not Monaco. And somewhere
But they think they are.
they think they are.
Right, they do.
That's all we can assume.
Right.
Which
And
is
that's gotta
why
stop.
I think the hearing in December is going to be very good.
Yes.
Because it'll be the first chance that we've had to sit down and make all of this clear to the State Board of Ed. And I'm hopeful that they're reasonable people and that the new Commissioner of Education is a reasonable person.
Right. And the fact that, you know, the MBR, you know, I'm certain there was a need that it came into to fruition, but right now it's bad legislation, needs to be changed.
Yeah.
We've talked to the
there's
first
several
selectman-
towns.
Yeah.
Several
and-
towns.
and the circumstances are a little bit different, but there's no process of appeal to a law that was poorly written. And, you know, I've read in the papers that, you know, our cause isn't noble. Well, I beg to differ. I think it is very noble. Bad legislation is bad legislation. We need to function as efficiently as the state is demanding their own employees
That's
Right.
true.
for facing.
Yes.
Are changing. And, you know, that's a battle that I feel is worth fighting.
Yeah, and I think good point, because I think at that hearing we're likely to have a number of other towns with us. We've talked to a number of people who said that they support us and that they want to be part of the process. They all have, you know, slightly different sets of facts and issues that they face. None of them
Right.
are being sued by their Board of
I was going to say,
Education.
some towns, the Board of Ed is working with the Board of Selectmen.
Oh yeah, no, and actually in an awful lot of towns, the Board of Ed and the Board of Selectmen are appealing to the State Department of Ed to say this idea that we must spend this much money when we've got, you know, in our case, we've gone from 1,500 kids when that number was
Right.
set down to 1,250. We've got 250 less students. $200,000 isn't beginning to touch.
the deduction, the cap on that was next to nothing.
It was a
Right,
percent,
doesn't
1%.
show up, right.
It was
Right.
1%.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
We were lucky to get that the way they were fighting over it.
right.
It is. It's poor legislation.
But the existing legislation does say, remember, if you close a building and your Board of Ed reports all that consolidation, they will lower your MBR.
Right.
But our Board of Ed, when they read that in July, said, now we can't close a building because the MBR will have less money.
Yeah.
And we don't want less money.
So we're gonna
More
try
and
the
more and more.
phones?
Are they on now or not?
I don't know.
No, they are on.
Oh, they are.
They are on?
Yes.
So we should let people know they can call.
You can call in. The phone number is 860-738-5091. Again, that's 738-5091. We will take your calls. We are, as you I think know, going to be leaving to go to the debate up at Gilbert School.
Yes.
So we've got a bit of time now. We'd love to hear from you. And here's our first call. Good evening. May I ask who's calling?
Yes, David.
Hi, David.
Hi, David.
Hi. I just wanted to say, Ken and Karen and Marcia and Glenn, not only are the Republicans supporting you, but the majority of the voters who are independents are going to come out and support you guys 100%.
Thank you.
So I
Glad to
wanted
hear
to
that.
let you know that. And you know, the Independent Party, which has supported you, is going to come out in force and hopefully vote for every single one of you to get back in.
No, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
David.
you.
Thank you, Dave.
Have a good night.
Night. Yeah, it's nice to get that call of support. I hear going door to door, a lot of people say, you know, you have to start talking to them. You do. I'd say I counted, we've been to 610 doors. I can count on less than one hand the number of intransient, I won't listen to you responses that we've gotten.
Right.
There have been 4 or 5 of people that, I don't want to hear facts. I just want you to do what I want you to do. And that's sad, because I would hope that you could engage people in a discussion and that they'd listen.
Right.
And not necessarily you'd persuade everyone, but they'd at least listen.
The big difference, and I may have mentioned this earlier.
And most people have. Most people
The
have.
big difference this year, I mean, this is the 3rd time that I've gone through this process. In years past, if you handed some literature, you talked to them, they would shake your hand and say, you got my vote, and that was it. It was like a 5-second.
Right.
And we're all very well aware of it because we're living it out. They engage us in conversation. Long conversations.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes we're there 15, 20 minutes, some instances even longer than that. I mean, they want to talk about the issues, they want to understand it, and they are fully supportive of us. And I think it's time consuming, but I think it's a good thing, and I think that's something we need to do, is to get out there and talk to the public. And I think it's very beneficial.
It is a good thing, because I think people are starting to now do some thinking, where before a lot of this stuff just went right over their head.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good positive change, actually.
Well, we had that experience, was it last Sunday, with the gentleman up on, is it West Lake Street, where he was saying, the 3 of us, you need to
Yeah.
hold firm.
Right,
The Board
yeah.
of Ed needs to be brought under
Yeah.
control. It was, we were like, do you want to come with us? Because we've got more doors to go
Yeah.
to. He was very, and he was someone who said he was born and raised here.
Right here, yep.
He was
Yeah.
he was someone who's lived here, his whole life, and didn't understand. He said, "Look, there's always been, some tension and back and forth and a little rough and tumble," but he acknowledged that things are actually far worse
Yes.
than they've been in the past. Both the appearance of the town and the behavior of some of the folks. And I guess, again, given that we've covered this evening the fact that these guys have a problem and they're covering it up and they won't tell people. You know this, from your kids. You engage in the worst behavior when you're trying to when you're trying to prevent somebody from finding out something you don't want them to know.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
I think, or I shouldn't say you, but people can engage in the worst behavior when they're trying to cover something up. And the cover-up becomes, in this case, the lies in the cover-up are as bad, if not worse, than what may be the issue.
Well, it does
Yes.
take the focus off of, trying to move the town forward, and that's
Yeah.
ultimately where we need to get.
And you're 100% correct. I mean, and that's where the biggest problem lies. I mean, we have so many things that we could be addressing or working on instead of chasing after, audits that are
Well-
a year and a half behind schedule.
I mean, they just announced, last night or this morning, there's a new $623 million investment for small businesses and jobs in the state of Connecticut. And we're not well positioned to take a part of any of those programs because
No.
we don't have financial statements, so we can't begin to apply for any of those grants.
That's
we
right.
can't begin to help our local small businesses get, some of those loans require support from your community, and until we solve this problem, we really can't do a lot of stuff.
Nope.
And it boggles my mind that the mayor and the deputy mayor haven't taken this on board, because I don't think they're unsmart people.
No, they're not. And, Wayne Dove, to his credit, I guess, he started to conversation about this education thing back when he came on board. It was one of
Right.
the first things he recognized as something that had to get fixed.
And there was resistance then.
Right.
Well, he picked an even big. I mean, I shouldn't say picked. He, I think, surmised at the time that the savings could be, $3 to $5 million if
Yeah.
it was properly managed.
Right.
And actually, we did have that parent. I think I've had 2 now, but I had one on Sunday say to me, "Why can't we just give the whole system to Gilbert?"
Right. Yeah, we have heard
Because
that.
they obviously are
right.
doing 7 through 12. They account for their money down to the pencil. It doesn't mean to say that they couldn't do more, that they shouldn't be a little more open in their own dealings with the town, and be as transparent as possible about what other things they can and should be doing with the Gilbert Trust. So I'm not by any means saying that they're perfect,
No, but what they see is stability.
but they see and they see it. Well,
And
look, it
transparency.
starts with looking at a building that's been maintained.
Right.
Right.
Right. And kids coming, they have new textbooks, they're happy, They're, you know,
There are
overall.
new computers,
Yes.
there's new uniforms.
They're having a good experience. Yes.
and unfortunately, the rap had been up to now that, well, that was because they were getting all the money and we didn't have any money. Well, now they have almost half the kids for a third of the money.
Right.
So the emperor has no clothes.
Well, it's interesting because what we had talked about this prior to, you know, this happening is that, you know, they were complaining that it costs so much per student, you know, and because the overhead doesn't go down. And then everybody, you know, was like a revelation. Oh, yeah, if we send more kids, you know, the cost per pupil goes down. And that's exactly what happened. Okay? And now we have the opposite happening, and they don't want to recognize that. It's like you can't have it both ways, folks. You know, you just can't.
Yeah, you don't get to say, oh, but it's, you know.
You have less students now from the K through 6, you know, and guess what? Now that your cost per pupil, you know, has to be adjusted.
And
And closing a school adjusts it.
Right, that's right.
well, and I we've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think I would rather have a conversation about buying Kindle Fires to deliver textbooks and
Sure.
spend, you know, whether it's $100,000 or $500,000 for 7 through 12 or 5 through 12, whatever the right age range is, and have that conversation and be able to, you know, have the town feel good about investing in that and doing that, than fight about, you know, an insurance claim for mold because you've
Right.
dragged your feet for 11 weeks.
Very good point.
Right.
I mean, that's
It's where we're
it's
at right now.
unacceptable.
It is unacceptable.
It's unacceptable.
I agree, Marcia.
And you know,
Agreed.
I think you know, for those of you that won't be venturing out in the snow this evening,
Couple flurries,
I think
come on.
I think it is snowing throughout Winchester now, or Winstead. We will be going up to the debate shortly, but I think, always want to leave you with our thoughts in terms of what we really want to do in the first 90 days, which is we want to have the. We have a call. Excuse me. Good evening. May I ask who's calling?
Bobby from New Hartford.
Hi,
Hi.
Bob from
Hi.
New Hartford. How are you?
Okay. You guys are compromised because of the MBR and the law. And the state is very unbending and they're not adjusting to the condition. So could you make some comments about that?
Sure. Bob, I'm sorry. I just disconnected you. I meant to say I'll take your question. I'll answer your question. In terms of the MBR, let's be clear. The legislation that was approved in July said that if you closed a building and consolidated and you reported that to the state, your MBR would be adjusted to reflect that. Our Board of Education in March, in their budget, said it was educationally appropriate to close a building. We had already voted to consolidate 7th and 8th grade to Gilbert. The total value of that move was $1.5 million to $2 million. So the town put in place a budget that put that money back into the fund balance and invested some of it in public safety. When the law, and we did that knowing that the law was moving in that direction. There were versions of the law already out there.
Right.
There was going to be the modest reductions capped at 1%, 0.5% to 1% for student declines in enrollment. But the clear, real gain was if you were restructuring your district and closing buildings, you were obviously going to be saving significant amounts of money, and your MBR would be adjusted to reflect that.
Right.
So as soon as that law passed in July, and the Winstead Board of Ed realized that meant the MBR should be 18.6 or lower, they immediately said they weren't closing a building.
And they said that in public.
And they're using a loophole in the law to basically hold the town hostage.
Yes.
So that's the loophole in the law. Having said that, in terms of where we are right now, the town has approved an 18.6 budget. We look forward to a hearing that's going to happen in December with the State Board of Ed to walk them through how the budget came to be and where we are, and also, quite frankly, a full airing of the Board of Ed's behavior and all the other things that we've talked about,
Yep.
because it's appropriate. And at the end of that discussion, we fully expect the State Board of Ed to understand that we've been reasonable, that a building should be closed, that there have been real savings, and we expect to prevail in that conversation. So,
And you hung up on them.
I need to hang up on you, Bob. If you want to call back, if you have follow-up, I apologize. But, you know, the Democrats are fond of saying the law is the law is the law. I think it's really important to understand, as we've said this evening from these emails, The State Board of Ed, I think, will hear reason and be reasonable. What's clear from having the Board of Ed chair and the mayor say, quick, we have to call and give them some backbone,
Right.
is that they are interested in being reasonable. They are interested in negotiating with us.
We should also, just to add that, you know, we followed very closely and we were corresponding with our senators and representatives because we had serious concerns, as many towns did. So we weren't the only town that had concerns
no.
while they were drafting this MBR, right?
No, there's
Right.
several that were in.
Right, and if it's Winchester this year, it's going to be 2 towns, 3 towns, 4 times next year.
Yeah, this is not, right, this
It's
is not an
reality of where
isolated
we are right now.
Winchester
Because even
problem.
with the law the way that it is, particularly with this loophole, we are not the only district where someone's refusing to close a building and therefore waste money.
Right.
We just are the only one where the school board also happens to be suing the town on
Yeah.
top of that. So,
Which was even before our budget was even adopted, they sued us.
and so, again, to be clear, we've got the hearing coming up in December.
Yes.
We're going to talk to them. We expect them to be reasonable. And because they were reasonable until they started getting emails and phone calls from Sue and Candy. And who wouldn't take a step back and wait and see what happens if the mayor's calling you up saying, I'll give
Right.
the $1.3 million.
Right.
That's
You know,
true.
who wouldn't see the situation as clouded and say, let's see what happens? So it's incumbent upon the voters to decide whether they want a Board of Education that operates efficiently and lives with its word and does things in the best interest of the community, or whether they just want to pour money down a drain.
Bob was from New Hartford. I was curious what, you know, why he was asking if he just wanted the answer or he wanted to, because he's not going to be voting for us, I don't think.
Not from New Hartford.
Yeah, I don't think, as you said, he was Bob from New Hartford. So
Right.
He's a fan of our show.
he's a fan. He's a regular.
That's okay.
A regular
That's
caller.
okay. It was a good question.
Well, we better wrap it up because we've got to hightail it up to
Up
Gilbert
to
High
the
School.
Gilbert School.
Right.
All right. Well, again, we thank you for joining us this evening.
Yep.
We look forward to perhaps seeing some of you at Gilbert, and we look forward to seeing you at the polls.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be out again this weekend.
Yeah, we'll
and
still be out and about.
We've got another show next week.
That's true.
Next
so we've
Thursday.
got
So we'll be
we've got
back.
another show. So
Right.
we'll be back. Sorry, I was jumping ahead. I have so much fun. I was
That's
hoping
right.
that it was. Yeah, no, we will. You will see us this weekend, and you will see us next week. And feel free to stop us and ask questions or comment as well. Obviously, people have been good about that as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Good night. Sorry.